now that we've seen all the new chart types and we've identified all the existing chart types, it's time to actually make a chart. So the first thing you need to realize is your data has to be set up in a relatively compact way. You can't have 5,000 rows of data and expect it to become a chart. Now, there's ways to do this via formulas and functions, sum ifs, stuff like that. There'd be ways to create this using pivot tables. So you can create a pivot table which will summarize your data and take it out from there. Or you can just have small amounts of data to begin with, something like what we have on the screen. Now, you can just click into the chart or into the data somewhere. That's not a big deal. But lots of times you don't want to include certain parts, like say grand total or year to date. And so to not include those, I'm going to select just the Q1 through to Q4 of the Northeast, Northwest, Southeast, Southwest. Now I do include the labels. If you don't include the labels, you'll have to either manually enter them or select them later. But I do want to include the labels here. And there's a bunch of different ways to do it. If I want a quick column chart, I can actually put the function F11 on my computer, and I would just create one, just done. But we don't necessarily always want to do something like that. So in your Insert tab, there's a bunch of buttons that will help you out. You'll see up here that you can both start with the recommended charts screen, or you can jump directly to a specific type of chart. So your columns are right here, and as you hover over them, you'll get to see what they look like, all the different variations. I can go to one of these tree maps, or these sunbursts, pie charts, stuff like that. So I can hover over and see what I want to in these, and I could just click one and select one of those charts. One of the easier ways to start, if you're not really sure which type you want, is you can start with the recommended charts. If you click that, it's going to open up your Insert Chart pane, and on the left side, you'll see the recommended charts. This is the charts that the computer thinks are going to be good for you. Now, sometimes they don't really work, but other times they might be exactly what you're looking for. So you can start with the recommended charts, or you'll notice at the top here, you can also jump to all charts. And here you'd be able to see any recent charts you've made, any templates that you have. We'll talk more about that later. And then, of course, every single possible type of chart that you have at your disposal. You'll see that certain charts won't be possible unless you have the proper data. So you might not be able to make certain types of charts unless your data has a significant amount of information supplied for it. As I come down, I can choose all sorts of different types. Some of them don't really make sense here. Some of them really won't be that useful, but I can choose the type I want to. Now, when you choose a type of chart, at the top, you'll be able to choose variations on that type. So I could have what's called a clustered column or a stacked column. One point to make for you to know this, there's this third type that you see called the 100% stacked column. And if you look at it, you're going to notice that every single bar is the same size. Well, these values aren't the same size. That's a misnomer. It's like a trick. What this is meant to do, this is almost like 4 pie charts that have been squished into bar form. This is meant to show the distribution of each of these quarters' total sales. So the total sales of that quarter is 100% of itself, and then we break them down. Now, if I was looking at the budgets for 3 different locations and they had drastically different budgets, but I just wanted to see what percentage they were spending on salary and rent and Wi-Fi, stuff like that, then this might be a great way to do it, because I could see drastically different values all at these 100% sort of ways. But most of the time when we look at a column chart, this is not what we expect to see. So I would avoid certain chart types that might not exactly explain the data well and make people live off of weird assumptions that they might not find to be true, like assuming that all the bars are equal, so everyone sold the same amount, or we sold the same amount every quarter, because they might not look close enough to notice that's not what this is trying to tell us. Also, 3D is fine, but it's still not really the greatest thing. So I think 2D tends to be a lot cleaner, a lot easier to see on a page, and 3D tends to have some sort of perspective where you have to be askew to see it. And so it's your choice whether you want to use 3D or not, but I tend to find more accuracy in 2 dimensions than in 3 here. But you can choose any one of these types, and if you choose one that you like, you can then go down to the bottom and say OK. Your chart will be created. You can resize it as you want, and there we go. So we have created a chart from our data. There's another way to do this as well. I'll delete this really quickly and come back here. If I select my data, there's this thing called the quick analysis down below. If I click on it, you'll notice that I can also kind of jump ahead with certain types. This is the same idea as the recommended charts was, so it's just a different place to see it. But just know that you could potentially do something like this as well if that's what you wanted to do. But you can also just come here and choose your column, your chart type, as we did before. Press OK, and there we go. We now have a chart on our page.
We hope this video helped. Make sure to click the thumbs up and click the subscribe button right here. And click the link above to check out our Limelight classes, a free virtual live training. See you in the next video.